in Sefer Baal Shem Tov, Amud HaTfilah, Ois Kuf Yud Beis. Shemati Mimori Zal. This is from the Sefer Tzafnas Paneach, which is another Sefer by the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. And he heard from the Baal Shem Tov about the machlokes between Besham and Mesil, Ketzad Meragdin Lifnei Akalo. And this was mentioned already last week, that the Besham and Mesil, they have a different approach to how to be Meshabeach a bride in front of the groom. And so the general question is, should you be realistic, or should you simply say good things? Because he already made his choice. He's already getting into it. And so should we just cheer him on and say all the nice things about the bride? Or even then we should be specific about the nature. If we want to give shevach, if we want to give praise, it should be about something that is really good in her. We should find the good things and talk about those. So B'Shem Yomrim Kale K'mo Shehi. Kale K'mo Shehi means you say as it is. You don't try to exaggerate just to make him feel good, to make the groom feel good. V'Sil Yomrim Kale No V'Chasuda. You say what the human bride is supposed to be. That's what he needs to hear right now, so that he can fully commit to whatever he's committed already. And she will perform to the best of her ability. But now is not the time to get into the details of her condition. Now is the time to give praise and to add to the happiness. We know that there's a tremendous happiness when the groom meets the bride. And so the happiness is so important. It's such an important component of the experience that there is great reward for anybody that helps with that happiness. There's all kinds of promises to someone who makes the groom and the bride happy, because this happiness is going to go with them into their relationship. It's a tremendous relationship. It's such a deep and meaningful relationship. The future of the world depends on it. And so if we add happiness, then we're improving the future of the world. Because children are made based on the moods of their parents while they're making them, amongst many other things that are happening to the parent. But the parent is a live sample that's being duplicated. It's live to that specific moment. It's not just that we have a type of seed and then whenever we pass it off, we pass it off. We have a certain type of seed that gets customized according to how we feel and what we think. And so in the moment of creation is exactly what's being duplicated. Just like when we create our blood cells. The moment that we create a blood cell has very much to do with the condition of that blood cell. What were we thinking? What were we feeling? That's going to become a part of the organism, and that's how we keep our stability. And so everything that goes into the creation of children is going to influence which children are going to be created. And so Kol HaMesameach Chosen V'Kalo, he's involved in that process. And so it's very important that he get it right. What am I supposed to be doing? How am I going to help the relationship more? Because based on that, we're going to pull souls from the infinite spiritual realms, and those souls are going to inhabit the earth. And those souls are going to either enrich the spiritual experience of this planet, or they're going to inflict damage on its capacity. And all that is based on the situation while the soul is being attracted. And so, here we're going to learn the deeper meaning, which is why we even have a chosn and a kala on this planet. We only have a chosn and a kala on this planet. We only have male and female, bride and groom, because it's a metaphor to teach us about something else, a much bigger relationship that resulted in us existing, not us as an individual, like a marriage, but us as a species, us as a planet, us as a galaxy. There's a reason why we exist the way that we exist. And that has to do also with a groom and a bride. Every groom and bride over here is a mashal, is a metaphor for a groom and a bride that are much bigger than us by the infinite. And because of them, everything that we know, everything that we can see, everything that we will ever experience exists. And so the bride and the groom, as they get together, they are demonstrating something that took place in a dimension that we cannot imagine, in a dimension that's responsible for our imagination and for our body and for our soul. And in that dimension, there was a desire to create. And that desire to create dressed up in multiple parts in order to create its creation. And the portion of that desire that dressed up as the reality that we know, the manifested reality, the portion of that desire that we reside in, that we feel, that we experience, that portion is called the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is a bride. Through her, we came into existence. But who impregnated her? Who gave her the power to make us be? That one, he is the groom. He is the chosan. That's why a chosan doime lemelech. When someone is the chosan, means now in the metaphor, he is the king. He's sitting on the throne. Which throne? The throne that decides creation. Which creation? The creation of little worlds called children. And the same way the little worlds, in the exact same way the big world. And so the Shekhinah that now is hidden from us, it's hidden from us not because we can't see it, we are it. Of course we see it. But we don't know how to think of it. It's hidden because our mind has forgotten the place where reality resides. And so the Shekhinah that's now hidden is going to be revealed. Then we're going to know who she is, and what she is, and why she is, and how much it matters to be part of her. then she is going to be called a bride. Ibir ki leosid, Shekhinah nikres kala. Only in the future we will call the Shekhinah a kala, a bride. That's why when we want to invite the Shekhinah to come back, we say boi chala, boi chala. And so the Shekhinah is going to be recognized as the bride when we're going to know her, when there's going to be awareness of who she is within those who populate her. But while there is no knowledge, while there is no understanding, Mashenken Ato, now, Shekhinah nikres Zoys. Me'es Hashem hoisa Zoys. Zoys, this one is like a female that doesn't have a specific designation. But when she is going to be recognized for who she is, we're going to call her Kala, we're going to call her bride. And according to how we are in the bride, so the groom is going to be attracted to her. Right now, she's less attractive. We're not making her very attractive because we don't know her, we don't understand her. This is called Kishute Kala. That's why on Shavuos night, we stay up learning to be Mekashe de Kala. Why? Because tomorrow she's going to meet her groom. A groom is the intelligence that knows what it wanted here, and now it's not seeing it. That intelligence has a representative in us. And therefore we know that something is off. It's that same intelligence that tells him something is off, tells us something is off. And so the Kala is not called a Kala. The bride is not recognized as a bride. The bride is called Zoys. Just a random female. Which female? The only female that receives from who? From the source himself. There's a spiritual entity that is in charge of everything that is. Because through that force, everything that exists receives definition, receives instruction, receives life. And so there's someone that's receiving, and there's someone that's giving. The someone that's giving is called the source, the male. The someone that's receiving is called Zoys, the female. And when she will be redeemed, then she will be called the bride, she will be called Kala. And then everyone will try to be Mekashe de Kala, everyone will want to add beauty so she finds more favor in the eyes of the groom. בזה יבן כיצד מרקדין בזמן הזה בגולס השכינה שהיא לפני וקודם שנקראת קלה. כיצד מרקדין לפני הקלה? How do you raise favor for the Shekhinah before she is recognized as a bride? While she's still in a condition of Zoys. כי הריקת ולהלס נצויצני מדרגה תחתונה לעלוס על העליונה כמו ריקת קודש וכולי. Dancing means elevating. Dancing means I take the life force and I keep pushing it up with my energy. Gravity pulls it down and I keep pushing it up. And so this represents raising the sparks, the particles of the divine that got lost, that forgot their value, that forgot their importance, that forgot how to access their own power. All these sparks need to be elevated back to their original condition. They need to be united with the source that created them. They need to regain their power and their understanding of who they are and how they are in order to know how to be them. And so when we dance, the intention of the holy dance is to constantly raise the sparks so that they can return to their former glory. And so then there can be a revelation of truth. Then the truth can reside within creation. As long as the sparks are fallen, and they don't believe in their own power, they can't get to the place of reality because they can't elevate themselves to such a high level of belief. They can't believe so good. They've been disabled. As children, they could have believed anything. But because of their experiences, they've been disabled and they can no longer believe. And so we have to raise the sparks back to their original condition so that they can realize the truth. ואין זה אלא יופי בזמן הגולס. כי מי יוכל לעשות על צד השליימס? How can we know how to elevate the sparks properly in the time of exile? What's the problem? The one that's supposed to be raising the sparks, he himself doesn't believe. Who's going to believe enough? Who's going to believe so that we can actually bring it out into fruition? If we don't believe it, then the sparks remain low. The sparks remain disconnected and weak. So ואין זה אלי יופי בזמן הגולס, כמי יכול לעשות הצד השלמס, כמבואר, בסוד נפילס הפעם של ההלס נצויצו מן העשייה דרום המלס, וכוסף מראין רב חיים וטל, שאין עיתון ידי האדמו וכולי, עיון שם. So the Arizal says already in his time, the Chaim Vital says in the time of the Arizal, that to raise sparks from Asiya, who knows how to do that in our times? And so they, in that time where the Mekabalim had an understanding of the nature of what we are trying to accomplish, even then they couldn't raise the sparks from the Olam Asiya, from the practical world, to return it to its original glory. What would it mean? It would mean that as you are going through life, as the obstacles of life are presenting themselves, you immediately understand the real reason of what they're saying spiritually. And so if you understood what it really means, you would see the kindness, you would understand why the designer designed it this way. But because we've been in suffering for so long, we've forgotten how to see the true belief. So we experience a fallen belief. And when we experience a fallen belief, the body cannot receive its sustenance. The body cannot be satisfied by this belief. And then that reinforces the false belief. The experience that we have when we have a fallen belief reinforces the false belief. Because when the spark is not ignited enough to give the body what it needs, then the body doesn't feel right, and the body doesn't feel right. This reinforces the belief, the fallen belief. And so in the time of exile, every day longer in exile, much harder to raise the spark, much harder to take the life that has been disconnected from meaning for so long and say, oh, why is this here? I will explain to you the perfect reason of why it's this way. We've been so disconnected from truth, from meaning, from the real interpretation of the words, that life has become meaningless. Those who still want to cling to belief, they have to believe in a meaningless way in order to be able to cling to it. The real light within the beliefs, the real light within the ritual, the real light within the text has all been lost, just like the souls of the people have been lost. And so how are we going to return the sparks? How are we going to bring it back to its original glory? לכן אמרו בשמאי, קל כמושי על דרך שכוסף בזוהר, סוד נודע בשיעורים בעלו, כל אחד ואחד לפי מה שמשער בליבי. כל אחד בדעתו ויכולתו. According to how much he is mishair in his heart, according to his ability, accordingly is the revelation. That means kala kamoshihi. Everybody according to their level, everybody according to their capacity. This part of the kala, this is the best you can do. So even though he can't really bring beauty to what's taking place over here. He can't fully explain it, but to the extent that he can, he should use his capacity to make it look nice so that it's acceptable in the eyes of the Creator, so that the Creator can want it more, and then the Creator will give it more life. Nobody can take off from this work. He has to work on himself. He has to develop his wisdom until things that happen have a different meaning, so that it doesn't cause the Shekhinah to go further into argument. And so the Veshami said, everybody according to their level. The Basil said, no, everybody according to their level, there will be too much damage happening to the Shekhinah. You better get it together quick. You better figure out a way of how to explain what's happening to you that doesn't cause further damage, that doesn't cause conflict between the Shekhinah and the Creator. Because if there's conflict, then the Shekhinah has less, and then there will be more justification for the conflict. And so we've been so long in the Golas, the conflict is already so justified that nobody even understands that this is not supposed to be happening. The conflict is not supposed to be here. By now the conflict is so justified. Every day the conflict is more justified. We're getting more pain, and therefore we don't understand the will of the Creator. And we're getting more pain, therefore our behavior is deteriorating. We're not even able to live according to our ideals. And so the Creator loses and we lose, and then one generation later, the conflict is even bigger. And so we have to figure out how we explain our way out of this conflict so that we can go to a place where there's no conflict. Then there will be no need for conflict, and there will be no need to explain conflict. The entire problem will disappear. And then the Shekhinah will be called a Kala. Then we will see that she is desired by her Creator. Now she doesn't seem desired. We say Zoys. To call her a Kala would be an insult. Miskena, this is how the Kala looks. Let's call her Zoys. And so the Vesilos say, Kala Nova Chasida. Well, even if it's Lifnei Kala, that's no time to sleep. We're responsible for her condition. So בסדר למה צבי לקלה נובה חסידה שצריך לידע בפרט איך לא עושה בגדי צויים ולכלך מהניצויצין לקשתו בפרט. Everything that happens has a reason, and it's right because it was designed right. If we go about it wrong, it doesn't work. That's also part of being designed right. And so we need to clean every portion. We need to recognize it for the good that it is, so that it starts serving the good that it's supposed to be serving. So everything is in place. If we say, oh, this part I disagree with, it shouldn't be here, we erase the part of ourselves. He, the master, decided it's there. Now we have to find out the place for it. Why was it there? What is it trying to serve? If we disregard, if we somehow think that we are wiser than the Creator, then we're losing out for sure. Also, the thing is not going to do its function. And also we're going to be suffering from it while it's interfering with our other functions. As everything is there for a purpose and a reason, and was designed. And he was very pleased with his design. And so we have to return the sparks to their Tov Moed status, like when they were created. Everything that exists in us needs to exist in us. That's why it existed, and therefore we have to find a place for it. If we told it the wrong thing, now it's misbehaving. And we suffer for it. שתהיה השכינה קלה נובה חסידה וכולי, ודיבר לפי חכם חיים. Let's go to Gimel, goes in the same Kivon. This is from the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, same person, different sefer. Kesafti v'mokam acher b'shem Mori, זיכרון לברכה, שביר פליקתא דבשמי בסילול, כיצד מרגדין לפני הקלה ושם רם קלה כמו שהיא, וגם בדרך כלל, שידע שכבודו יסברך מסתתא בכל מקום. And so the Beshami says, you might not know why specifically this situation needs to happen, but just know that the one who made everything happen, he is the one that decided on all the details, and therefore if it happened, it was his will that it should happen. And so lean on that, and based on that, be mevater on your opinions. Because it's already his will. You want your opinion to be in conflict with his will? That's a painful process. That means losing a part of your soul. Because in that conflict, that part that invested itself in this opinion is going to die. It's only a matter of time. And so, of course, we want to align all our opinions with his reality. Otherwise, we have portions of our soul that are destined to die. And death is painful. The nature of death is that it's painful. Because it means that we're moving something that we've invested identity in. So that's why, because if you're attached to something live, if you invest your soul in something real, then you have it for eternity. To the extent you invested in something real, to that extent you have it. And it doesn't start after we leave the body, even while we're in the body. To the extent we invest our soul in something real, we will have our soul as we go through life. To the extent we invest our soul in something not real, then pieces of our soul are missing. They weren't playing along in those times. And so those are the parts, those are the sparks that we want to rectify. We want to show them their way back. And so we say, there's nothing that was outside of his will. He who designed all the details, there was nothing that was outside of his will. And this rectifies the sparks. This brings them back to their glorious state, which is that they were in accordance with the will of the one who desired all. They're as legitimate as everything else that exists. Just like the sun must be, so too everything that happened must have happened. Now that we know that, now that it already happened. Because we know it was the will of the king who gives existence. And if the king wanted it, oh, for sure that I want it. Because only then I can have life. If I want different than the king, I can't have life. And so they say, Beshami says, Kale k'moshi, sheyeda shekvoda yisborach mistater b'chol mokom. The glory of the Creator hides in every detail. Every detail is testifying to the glory, the kindness, the pride of the one who invested all this in order to create us. And so even if we can't tell why this specific detail needs to be this way, but that suffice it to say that in every place and in every time, on every detail, this is how it is. Ibasel אומרים, כלנו וחסודו, שידע דרך פרט איך שנפלו אור ניצוץ הקדושה בתוך הקליפוס. So he needs to realize the nature of the hiddenness. How did something so sacred become so hidden from the soul that's experiencing it? The soul is holy. The world that was created by the designer is holy. And so how can it be so hidden? How can the soul itself not realize what is taking place? And so the Rebbe says, it's not enough that you know that it was his will and everything is according to how he desired. No, you need to understand what broke and how it broke. You need to understand the problem before you jump to the solution. And so you need to know how the sparks were contaminated. How did the desire for good become a desire for bad? How did the intention for good become manifested as an action or a speech that might become bad? Where does it go wrong? How did this fall apart? And this has to do with the attributes. The attributes before they were even human. In the original will to create, the attributes already were somehow not in a condition to continue their existence. And so these attributes are still being refined. These attributes are still being renewed. And we are sitting in a position that decides how these attributes are going to come out into manifestation. And the way that we steer the attributes, we're steering the entire world. The creative energy that gets created to feed the Shekhinah is based on the attributes that we measure. Measure for measure. That's how there's balance in all the worlds. The justice that gives measure for measure. So according to how we create within the Shekhinah, that's how she receives. And so the sparks, the holy sparks, went down into the husks, into the klippas, into the sitra achra, the other side. What's the other side? The side that doesn't like humanity. The part of you that doesn't like you, that's the other side. That part of you is hurting you every day, sabotaging you, taking away your power. There's a part of you that hates you, and that's the other side. There's a part of you that loves you, and that's your Yetzer Tov. Yetzer Tov loves you, Yetzer Hara hates you. And so everything you do because you hate you is a result of the Yetzer Hara. Everything you do because you love you is a result of the Yetzer Tov. They can both be very confused. Just because you do something because you love you doesn't mean that it's actually good for you. But it does mean that the desire, the intention was a good desire. It was a good intention. And so if you have the right information, then it will come out right. And so that is the other part of the evil inclination, is the wrong information. The part that hates you, that's one part that's sabotaging you, and the wrong information, that even when you want to do good for you, you don't know how. And so the evil inclination that is on the other side, that's the klippas. And the attributes, sometimes they get hijacked by the other side. And when the attributes get hijacked by the other side, then the sitra achra is active. Then the other side has power. And we have to save those sparks. Those sparks came out as thought, speech, or action. We have to redeem those sparks and say, you know why I said this? Really because I love myself. And because I love myself, I was frustrated. And because I was frustrated, I thought I hate myself. And so on and so forth. We have to redeem the spark and realize that the soul loves itself always. That's the nature of the soul. The soul cannot hate itself. That's just a thought it can have. It's an experience it can have. But it cannot be a reality. It's always an illusion. The nature of the soul is that it loves itself. It loves itself so much that it loves all of reality as a result. Because reality contains her, and she's so happy to be that she loves all of reality that gives her to be. And so we have to learn how to redeem these sparks that fell into the other side. יבואו בשעת התפילה מחשוב וזויס לסכנו וצורך להבדל אל הסר הקליפה. אלהלס מתוך הניצוץ הקדישה לקשתה שתי קלנה וחסידה. So, in the middle of a prayer, these sparks might appear. Because when a person is busy with things that are directing his mind, then the sparks cannot appear. But when a person slows down and is in introspection, then the sparks will appear and they will ask for redemption. But when they appear, it might seem like they're just coming to tell you something that is not pleasant for you, that comes from the other side. And so when a spark comes from the other side, we have to redeem that spark. We have to befriend it and get to know it and get to know its deepest motivations. How did this become? How did I, a beautiful, divine soul, decide to dress up as that, an ugly creature? What happened? What went wrong? And what went wrong is that there was hate towards self and wrong information. That's always what goes wrong. Nothing else can go wrong. Everything else is perfect. Even this is in some way perfect, but not pleasant, not at all pleasant. It causes wars, it causes diseases, it causes conflict and hate, jealousy and revenge. It brings out all the demons. Because when the other side takes hold of our attributes, then we become demonic. When the part of us that hates us becomes in charge of our behavior, that behavior is demonic. That behavior hurts reality. It doesn't help reality. Many people live in that place all the time. From there they act, from there they think, from there they do. This is why there's so much evil in the world, there's so much suffering in the world. It's because the other side, the side that hates humanity, is in charge of humanity. And when they're in charge, there's tons of false beliefs. The truth is nowhere to be found. Those who hate humanity will never propagate the truth. They hate the truth. The truth reveals that they don't exist, that they are illusions, that they are twisting reality. And so those who hate reality, they hate humans, they hate truth. Because it's the other side, it's the demonic side. It's the side that doesn't like us, doesn't think we deserve to be here, doesn't think that we should have it good. Doesn't think that we're a lovely creature. Doesn't think that a soul is very valuable. And so parts of our soul are dressed up like that. It's not just people out there. It's not just people who go to war out of choice. And there are still people like that today. But it's not just them. Every one of us has a little them inside of us. Every one of us has a little them, but not only a little them, the little them also has a whole army, just like in the real world. So many sparks that they ate that are now working for them instead of for me. And we have to liberate those sparks. Every spark has a reason. Why did my soul dress up like that? What was the wrong information that I was given? What was the frustration that caused me to go against? That caused me to go to conflict with reality? Because that's the root of the evil. That's why the evil manifested. If not for that, the soul will never create something that is against its own nature, that doesn't please itself. That's the nature of the soul. It's going to create according to how it pleases, unless it's very unpleased. And then what it pleases is unpleasing, even to her. And so when we see the kindness of the soul and the nature of the soul, the beauty of the soul, how everything was created in order to protect her, and everything is pure kindness. All its behaviors are pure kindness. It's just that we're not kind to the soul. So we get different variations of survival mechanisms, where the soul is trying to survive in an environment that's not friendly to it. But even that is a kindness. All of it has been designed to perfection. And so when we realize the real nature of how things come to be, Then we liberate the spark. Then we fall in love with the design. Then the bride looks more beautiful in the eyes of the groom. The children will be of a better quality. Life is going to be more meaningful. The organs are going to be more willing, more alive, more spontaneous, more real. Everything is going to be filled with desire. Nothing is going to be sluggish. Nothing is going to be dragged along. Life is going to happen in every particle. And then she will be called the bride. Then we will know that the groom desires her and she desires him, and then they will unite for eternity. May it happen now.